Welcome to the Finance Committee meeting on Thursday, March 27th, 2025 at 6 p.m. in Ayer Town Hall. This is a hybrid meeting. This meeting of the Finance Committee will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation via Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom meeting ID 978-772-8220 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager at atm@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100, prior to the meeting. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Do we have, I don't think we have the minutes from last meeting, do we? Or?
I sent them.
You sent them.
I did not print them out. Okay.
We can do it next week.
Okay, well, okay. Yeah, because this is a sort of a special meeting. So, okay, we will review and approve the minutes of last week's meeting, March 20th, at our meeting after this one. Okay, so we're going to go right to the item for this evening, which is reviewing the warrants for the fiscal year 2026 budget. We do have the articles up on the screen.
This is the supplemental one.
Okay, and what we are going to do is go through them, and we are going to, each member will vote to recommend, not recommend, or no position, or we would do a report at town meeting about the particular item. So what I propose to do, any members have some notes we'd like to do first, is to essentially start at the top and go down. Okay, so, and you'll scroll along on the screen.
I got
So, so the first one is the special town meeting, which is going to be the special same day. But Article 1, supplemental appropriation to the Water Enterprise Fund. We have,
Motion to approve.
no, what we're going to do is,
I was just going to say, question, how are we supposed to?
yeah, I thought, didn't we last year just take a poll?
Well, I think it's any discussion, come to a consensus, and then someone will make a motion for a position.
Oh.
And we can kind of like group similar articles together and vote together so that we don't have to vote like 30 times.
I mean, it's however you want to do it, right? The first one is like, do we have any discussion on the first topic? No. Okay. And it's like, I would like to make a motion to approve or not have no position or whatever.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Article 1, supplemental appropriation water. Any discussion?
It's pretty straightforward.
Okay. I move that we recommend Article 1, supplemental appropriation of water.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Article 2, supplemental appropriation for the ambulance enterprise fund. Any discussion? Okay.
Awesome. Seems to make sense.
I'll move that we recommend Article 2.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Article 1, salaries of elected officials. Any discussion?
cost of living adjustments. No discussion. I think we're fine.
2% seems fine.
Yeah, very, very,
I'll let you make all the motions.
Okay, yeah, no,
like, how about we do like a 1, 2, 3, 4 together?
well, I was going, let me finish, I was,
Sorry.
okay, let's finish Article 1 and then I'll gonna run with what you sort of suggested. So for Article 1 salaries, I move that we recommend that.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. I'm going to suggest that we consider Articles 2, 3, and 4, the contracts, since they were all negotiated contracts. So any discussion?
I just have a question for clarification purposes.
Mhm.
So we're essentially, voting to recommend, like, yes, we accept the contracts, the new union contracts, right?
Yeah, the appropriation, yep, for the first year.
So how come the cost is only 60,000? Like, doesn't the first year of the contract would be more than that, right?
Well, so, through the chair, so for that one, DPW, and I'll do a brief presentation at town meeting on each of them. The first year costs are $60,725. This contract, it covers 19 employees. And for example, like the COLA, they get the 2%. So this is just the cost for the first year.
So,
It's really the difference, it's the
For the-
increase,
the
it's not the
difference?
absolute
Yeah, it's the
amount.
increase.
okay, because I
Yeah.
was gonna say,
Yeah.
like, that didn't.
It's not the absolute, 19 people did not make only 60,000.
right.
That's why I was
Right.
like,
It's the difference, it's
Yeah.
the difference of the increase.
Good question.
Mhm.
And maybe,
It is a good
and I
question.
think that's a good question, I can clarify, that's the difference.
Yeah.
Yep.
The
Then-
total thing is like a million or 2 million, something like that, yeah.
Can you put that in the footnote of
Yep.
the?
Just made a note right here.
So same thing for the other 2 articles too. The
Yes.
numbers there were,
Yep, we'll make that.
was the increase in the
Yep.
amount, not the.
Yep.
Any other questions then on the Articles 2, 3, or 4?
Nope.
Okay, I move that we recommend the Articles 2, 3, and 4.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Going to do Article 5 by itself. Article 5, FY 2026 Omnibus Budget. Discussion, questions?
And Mr. Chair,
Yes.
as the committee probably saw in the packet. Oh, you're on number 5, sorry. Never strike that, pardon me. Yeah. Never mind.
Oh, okay.
Lost the train of thought, yeah.
I don't think so. Because we have the department heads come by, so.
Hmm?
We have the department heads come by, right? Was the whole point of doing this? So I think I'm okay.
Oh, okay,
Same.
gotcha. All right. With no discussion, so with Article 5, I move that we recommend Article 5, Omnibus Budget.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I was going to do the 2 school assessments together. So for Article 6, the Ayer Shirley Regional School District School Assessment, and Article 7, the Neshoba Valley Tech High School School Assessment.
I had
Discussion.
one thing.
Yes.
Robert, I don't know if you know, but is there any sort of potential issue if they dismantle the Department of Education on our budget for our town?
So I talked to Dr. Renda about that just the other day when I saw him. They're monitoring that closely. Right now, there appears not to be. I know there's a lot of stuff going on the federal level. But this portion obviously is the air portion for the budget, and surely the town piece. Where they could be impacted would be a lot of the federal grants. So more to come. I wish I had a more clear answer, but they are monitoring it.
My understanding is that the federal Department of Education really mostly is monitoring the, like, student loan of the those Pell Grant those mostly like at college level. So like a secondary and elementary school education is funded at the state level and local level. So this is part of the argument why they wanted to dismantle, was that it doesn't do a whole lot. It's kind of like more of a financial management that they could transfer the work to like a treasury department. So it's, if you college student take a student loan, that would be manager funded. That's my understanding.
I mostly just assume the federal government has their hands in everything, and
In the U.S., I think the secondary education, elementary secondary education actually is local. It's not controlled by the federal
I
government.
mean, it's run by the state, right? But
Yeah,
the
it's
state probably gets some funding from the federal government, which should then cascade down. Is my point.
I think that it's actually the state gets the funding from the local taxes, and then state collects that money and then reappropriate to the towns. And I think that that's my understanding, that the local school is not controlled by the federal government.
I will write a note to look into it.
Yeah, please.
I did actually, after Dr. Renda's presentation a few weeks ago at the select board, I did ask him, did he see any immediate impacts, if there would be federal, any immediate problems with federal funds, and he didn't see any
Yeah,
on the
initially.
short horizon.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, and then again, I think the other thing to note is that the Neshoba Valley Technical High School, she'll be doing, Dr. Pigeon will be doing a presentation at our meeting on the April 17th. And also our assessment, the town of Ayer's assessment went down this year due to decrease in enrollment.
Yep, 6 less students.
Okay, I move that we recommend Articles 6 and Article 7.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Can we do, may I suggest we do Articles 8 through 12, all the enterprise funds as one item?
I was just looking at that. It seems fine.
Okay, so we're going to now look at Articles 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, enterprise funds, solid waste, 8, 9 ambulance, 10 sewer, 11 water, and 12 stormwater enterprise. Discussion, questions?
I had a question. I can't remember which one it was. Hold on. Oh, ambulance. Direct cost of 219,000 come from ambulance revenue. Indirect costs of 458, of which 530 is to come from ambulance revenue, 110 is to come from retained earnings, and those don't add up to 458. Though I'm assuming there's a reason for it.
That might be a typo.
I didn't understand.
Probably a typo. Yeah. Direct costs. Or
Sorry if I didn't
transposition.
catch
See what he's saying there.
Yeah, so the direct cost, let me get out my budget and I can tell you what it should be.
Thank you
I have
very
it right
much
here.
for catching that.
This is
Someone's
why we
reading.
do
This
the
is why we
review.
do
This
this.
is why we do the review.
Everybody's reviewing it for tomorrow,
Yeah.
so we're still catching.
Yeah.
Let me just bring my ambulance.
See, I did my homework.
So it should be 219,230 paid from revenue indirect costs. From revenue, indirect costs of 458,674, of which 315,770
315.
770 is paid from revenue, 110,677 from retained earnings, and 37,227.
Okay.
So remove the 530 and plug in 315,770.
Good
My
catch.
apologies if I
No,
didn't catch
no,
it
no.
on the
good
draft.
catch. Good catch.
And
And that with the, I was going to note, what is the ambulance retained earnings balance?
retained earnings balance currently is 647,194. And their net revenues are actually coming in at estimated right now, and we still have 3 months. So I think their future earnings will be in good shape on the
Okay.
going into fiscal 26.
Okay. So, because it was, as I remember, the solid waste, we, ambulance was the only one we had.
It is
Yeah.
water
And, oh, that's right, water, but we approved that
at the rate review
at the
committee.
rate review. So, okay. Yeah, so that was good. Okay, good. So then, I move that we approve Articles 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Article 13, capital budget request to be borrowed. Yeah, let's go, yeah, so let me rephrase that, please. So we're going to consider Articles 13, capital budget request to be borrowed, and Article 14, capital budget request to be paid from the capital stabilization. Discussion, questions, observations?
So, Mr. Chair, through you just briefly, so both of these articles are all of the items that went through the capital planning process, which the
Correct.
chair was on. So this was all recommended. The first set is, of course, what the town would borrow. At town meeting, as needed, there'll be brief presentation on any of the materials. Also, if you go to the capital planning webpage, you can see all of the presentations. I just want to flag one thing under Article 14, under capital stabilization. See where it says IT, upgrade and replacement of town computers for $70,000. Max, the IT director, has applied for a grant from the state for the $70,000 because we have to upgrade these computers. But if we don't get the grant, that's why this is here. If we get the grant, and we may hear before town meeting, I'll ask the select board to just make a motion to withdraw the $70,000 from this article. But all of the Windows upgrade in October is going to cause the security not to work, so we have to replace 39 computers. I made a presentation to the select board on this a couple months ago, not a couple months ago, last month. So just wanted to flag that. And Barbara, I noticed on this, the total was
285,000
$285,000
for the transfer
from
from
the
capital
transfer. That's the,
stabilization. It's just not totaled on the
Oh.
yeah,
draft.
so it's $285,000 from capital stabilization.
So on Article 14, the total is 285,000.
Oh, yep, I'm sorry, I have one other thing. So yeah, 285 from capital stabilization. The last, back on Article 13, this is the borrow. If you go down to the bottom third where it says library roof replacement.
I was gonna ask about
Me
this.
too.
$214,250.
So $214,250
$250.
is going to come from CPC, which is a later article. So the difference, what's the difference of the
Yeah,
two?
214, 250.
Hang on, so it's just the difference that would come, what is it?
44,300?
44,300. So we've just asked town council how to word this. So what it really, the total project is 258,550. But assuming article, what's one of the CPC articles passes, Article 24 passes, then 214,250 of that, of course, Barbara's not going to borrow for that. So we just need to clarify that in the article. I'm just waiting to hear from town council. So it's a positive thing in the sense that it's less on the borrow end of things, it coming from the CPC.
Okay, so then for town meeting, that you'll have that clarified.
This will be clarified,
Yeah.
yep. It's actually, we're just waiting to hear back on it. as we speak. You'll probably see it before Tuesday night.
So then, with Article 13, we are going to be looking at borrowing of $7,151,668 less the adjustment for the library roof replacement.
Yep.
And then for Article 14, we'll be funding those smaller capital budget requests from the capital stabilization fund. Again, current total of $285,000 with a note that the IT may be less.
Yep, and I'll clarify that.
Okay. Yes.
I have a question. Because the town, can you remind me of the town and the library, and what is the obligation of the town to the library? Right, because it's technically not owned by the town. I just wanted to put that, because there's two borrowing articles, right? One is for the hydraulic controller, and one is for the roof.
Yes.
It's a goodwill sort of situation, technically.
I'm just trying to give the most condensed answer.
Okay.
So the library, though, I will use the term semi-autonomous from the town. We have always worked pretty well together, and even more so. On the 40,000 facilities in the library, actually on both of these projects, the library director and Chuck, the facilities director, work very well closely together with facilities doing most of the facility work. So it is, I mean, it depends on how you look at it. You could say it's goodwill from the town, but that library and the town were in the same boat. Yeah.
They're both public services.
Right, right. So yeah, it does get to be a little bit of a gray area. So I think in this case, on the roof, the good news, and a special thanks to the CPC folks, are willing to authorize the lion's share of the roof, which needs to be done. And then the library elevator hydraulic controller, without that, the elevator will not work and we wouldn't be ADA compliant. But I see where you're going with your question. Yeah.
Basically, if the town doesn't support library, the library
Yeah.
won't
I know.
exist. There's no any alternative.
Right.
Read it
I
into
think,
the record, Jim.
Yeah.
I think some of the frustration just comes
Hmm.
from the library likes to act like they're completely independent and they run on their own and
Yeah.
whatever.
Oh, really?
In actuality, without the town, there's no library.
Yeah, because it has a practically no funding, you know.
Exactly.
And it's all air, if, at the end, right, it's all taxpayer
Yeah,
money,
yeah,
and,
the thing is,
Mhm.
it's a benefit for the taxpayer, so, yeah.
And for the record, I do love the library.
Mhm.
I just have some feelings,
We all do.
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
some people
Yeah.
would understand.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't gone to the library for a long time. I went recently. I was a little appalled that people were talking very loudly there. But these days, the library is not about a quiet place anymore. It's like video games and, you know, all kinds of, it's more like a community center. So what can you do, you know?
That's a good way to look at it.
I'm just going back to the presentation that Luke, the librarian, did.
Yep.
There are, this is everything in a nutshell. There's 3 types of public libraries in the state of Massachusetts: city libraries, town libraries, and association corporation libraries, which is their situation. The original act in 1894 establishes the Ayer Library Board of Trustees as an independent corporation that will oversee the operation of a free public library funded by the town of Ayer. That's a summary there of the, and actually one of the things, this was being noted because we're clarifying, making sure all the
Mhm.
corporate language is correct and stuff. So,
One last comment. So
Yep.
this is also 285,000 out of cap stabilization, of which we're then putting 2 million back.
They're unrelated. It's considered a good use of funds to use your capital stabilization on a regular basis. So Ayer's financial policies have developed a system where some of these smaller items that we will use capital stabilization. So it's following our financial policies.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm just saying, but then we're putting 2 million.
Yeah.
back.
We are separate,
Yeah.
yeah, in a separate article, yep.
Yeah, no, as part of the capital planning, what's the cut, we have like a floor, what is it, 100,000?
We raised it. right?
Yeah, so per the financial policies, generally, any item that's $50,000 or less, and it's not exact, it's the purview of capital in your recommendation, but 50 or less, we try to pay for out of capital stabilization. Anything over 50,000, we look to borrow. Now, there are some exceptions here and there. And then anything over, is it 300 is the debt exclusion?
500, we changed it to
500, we
500,
changed it,
yep.
yeah. So, and what is the balance, do you have the, in capital stabilization right now?
So as of the end of February, $6,119,504.
Is that including the recent transfer from free cash?
From the one that we approved last year.
But not the, that's-
Not the one we're going to do. We have to
Oh,
approve
okay.
that first before we put.
So right now, our balance is 6 million plus.
yeah.
We're going to pull 285 out for this article. And then the free cash item, we actually is,
Recommending, yeah.
Yeah,
yes, right.
Article 19, yep.
We're going to be adding 2 million, so we're looking at the capital stabilization balance going up to some 8 million.
That's the recommendation, yeah.
Okay, we're sort of jumping ahead and around. Any other questions, discussions? Good. Okay, so I move that we approve Articles 13 and 14. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, very good. Moving on to, I'm going to group Articles 15, 16, and 17. These are Article 15 GASB-45 OPEB Fund, Article 16 Funding of the Reserve Fund for Compensated Balances, Article 17 Forward Funding of the Pension Assessment. So these articles all have to do with benefits and compensation. So discussions, questions? Okay, having hearing none, then I move that we approve Articles 15, 16, and 17.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I am going to, I think the next few articles I'm going to do one at a time. Article 18, I always like to read this one out. UDAG fund replacement, which is the Spectacle Pond Chemical Skid Project. This is UDAG being Urban Development Grant.
So just in a nutshell for everybody's benefit, so the UDAG grant fund, the UDAG fund is under the select board, and to access it requires a vote of the select board, and it's about $3 million is the $3 million in there. As has been the practice, policy of the town, is any time that the UDAG funds are used, the plan is to replenish that amount at a future town meeting using free cash, so we keep the fund replenished. This is the only outstanding project, which is good news. What happened is the Spectacle Pond chemical skid system needed to be replaced. It did go through capital. It's a critical piece of infrastructure that they have there. The problem was when it went out to bid, it came in over, which was, I guess, not a complete surprise, but they needed to get the project done. DPW went to the select board. The select board authorized up to $65,000 for the Spectacle Pond chemical skid project, which is, I think it's completed. Don't quote me on that, but it's underway.
if not completely.
Yeah,
it's
so
close.
this would take $65,000 from our free cash to replenish the UDAG fund.
How much do we have in the USAC fund altogether?
Just over 3 million, right,
Yeah, it's just
Barbara?
right
Yeah.
around 3.2.
3.2.
I don't know if anybody have raised this question, but so it's not just this, but the next one, the stabilization fund. So like if the stabilization fund currently has 6 million something, but it seems like we have a lot leftover free cash from this last year, so like 2.7 million. So
Was higher, yes.
yeah, I wonder if anybody has said, oh, are you raising too much taxes? Did anybody demand a lower tax rate for next year? I mean, I don't know, just wondering.
So we actually had 3 major anomalies that happened during
Uh-huh.
fiscal '24 that contributed to this larger free cash than normal.
Uh-huh.
So one of them was with interest rates increasing, which it's the first time I've ever seen it in my municipal career. The investment earnings were almost $1 million. We don't budget for that, so that is going to fall right to free cash, and that's just for the general fund.
That's a nice one.
Yeah. The other thing that happened was where we had our Minuteman Neshoba Health Group dissolve. We were not sure of what the rollout claims were going to be during this through the end of the last fiscal year. So we used ARPA funds to fund our the amount we had to give the trust during the rollout, and then we did not have any catastrophic claims. So we basically ended up with about $332,000 in our insurance line because of that.
So this is a one-time amount.
Yeah, so there
Yeah.
was some anomalies this year that
I just was trying to think if someone at town meeting is going to raise the issue,
Yeah.
then yeah.
We'll be ready to explain. It was an anomaly year. The
Yes.
average is about 1 to 1.5 million, at least the last 7 years. So,
And that's a result of, we budget our revenues very conservatively with the hope that they come in higher, which would then fall to free cash. And
So I'm just going to finish, do Article 18. I'm going to move then Article 18, we move to approve that.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And then we've started talking about Article 19, the stabilization funds, which is going to, as Jen has brought up, move the funds from free cash to the town stabilization fund, and then the 761, 808,000, and 2 million to be credited to the capital stabilization fund. Any questions, other discussions?
Jen stole my question.
Sorry.
You gotta wait, it was the wrong article.
I think that's what I like about this group is that we're thinking all the time, which is good.
yes.
Okay, with no questions or discussions, I move that we recommend Article 19 on the stabilization fund. All those in favor?
Aye.
Article 20, revolving fund article.
So just for the FinCom, through the
Yes.
chair's benefit, so each year, these are the various revolving funds for different departments. And each year, town meeting has to authorize the fund as well as the limit in the fund. So that's why these are all of the funds. There's no new funds. These are all existing. All of the fiscal year limits are the same with the exception of the Youth Works Fund on the bottom, and you'll see in the note, it's currently was at 20,000, and the DPW director is recommending that that be increased to 40,000 so that they could spend up to the limit of 40,000, and that increase is based largely on trends he's seeing. The Youth Works program is run every summer with the DPW. So you see this article every year. We always want to try to highlight the only change is from 20 to 40,000 on the limit. So they can't go over that.
Okay, all right.
Good question. Think on specifically how these work,
Mhm.
as opposed to them being like separate articles. Does that mean that if they're if they're all together like this, does that mean that, so the first one, the fire alarm fund, does that mean that there isn't actually 75,000 quote set aside for it, that it can, like, how is this different than the other ones?
These funds are self-funded by fees that they take in. So this is similar to setting an operating budget for each of them, that no matter what the balance is, these are their spending limits for the year.
Okay, so in a way, it's more akin to an enterprise fund?
Yes, it's just not large enough to be an enterprise fund, and these departments are not fully funded by revenues. It's just these small portions of things they do within their department that are self-funded.
Okay.
I remember you described it as the town acts as the revenue collector on these and then disperses. So in other words, like.
All within the fund, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I move that we approve Article 20.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Article 21, first year's interest general fund borrowing. Any discussions, questions?
So, through the chair, so Article 13, which we just looked at, which was the borrow for all of the capital. This article is for the first year borrowing costs.
Yes, which we generally get a premium, and we have some money that is unused from the last borrow, so we're adding to an existing balance that's out there for this type of cost, which is why it's so small.
But this goes with your general.
Again, this is a difference, right? You'll have a larger amount. That's a bigger number.
It's the difference. It's the additional we need to raise and appropriate to come to what I'm anticipating are the first year borrowing costs for the process of borrowing and the interest.
This sort of ties into you try to, remember we sat and talked about borrowing, you try to do more borrowing up how did you phrase it, more principal up front?
We generally do declining principal so that it gets less expensive every year.
Okay,
That's traditionally how Ayer has.
okay. Okay.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So, in the department budgets and whatnot, when, like, say DPW, because they have to borrow money every year for things. So is the money that they've borrowed, or we have borrowed for those projects, does that not show up? Is that included at all in that department budget, like the amount that for their projects has to be repaid, or is it not?
So every enterprise has their own debt service in their budgets. So the 5 enterprise funds, it is in their budgets. And the remainder of it is in the omnibus for any other departments in the general fund.
Okay.
Okay. Then I will move that we approve Article 21.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Just jump, we're going to do Article 22 by itself, and then we'll combine Articles 23 and 25. Let's do then we're going to just look at Article 22, funding for aquatic weed control. Any discussion?
My favorite thing. Every year. It's a bargain and a half if you've ever been into Sandy Pond.
And Flanagan Pond.
That's true. For those of you who live on the not fun side.
But it is a hot button issue.
It sure is.
Yes. Well, I think with the town strikes a good balance in that. With no further discussion, I move that we approve Article 22.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We're going to look at Articles 23, which is the Community Preservation Act, Article 24, Community Preservation Fund, Ayer Library Roof, and Article 25, Community Preservation Fund, Ayer Affordable Housing Trust. The observations from the town manager, finance, Questions, discussions?
Just through the chairs, as many of you've seen year after year, Article 23 is sort of a standard article, and these articles are under the Community Preservation Committee, which on this one is the funds that they've collected through CPA. This article appears every year where the CPC has the recommendation of putting the funding into the different categories. So you'll see 101,029 under the open space and rec use, and that decision was made because that category has a pretty healthy balance, and then putting 301,029 into the historic resources, and then 301,029 into community housing as the categories. And then they have an undesignated reserve that the 256,689 would go into. So this article, every year they meet, they have a public hearing to determine how they're going to take that year's CPA funds and put them in the various categories. When we get to the other articles, as you'll see, when they want to use funding for a project, somebody has to apply. They go through a whole process. There's a public hearing, and town meeting has to approve it. So Article 23, if you will, is just organizing that funding moving forward.
And Robert, just a quick question again. Community Preservation Fund revenues come from
CPA tax.
The
CPA tax, which is on
From the state.
the,
On your property tax bill, there's a CPA.
there's a line item.
3%,
Okay.
and
Right.
the state matches, because we're
Yes.
at 3%, and there is an exemption process through the assessors to get an exemption, either partial or full through the assessors, not to pay the CPA if you meet certain criteria.
Okay, very good. Okay, so that's Article 23,
Can
and
I
then,
ask what the balance in these funds are that we keep collecting 3% on every year?
So I don't have that information with me, but I can get that
We
for
get
you.
We'll get that, and also, I know they'll do a brief report at town meeting where they'll have the balances, but we can email those to you.
So that's the one where we spent like 600 something to acquire that parcel across from Sandy Pond.
Yep.
Yeah.
But they have used the funds, which is why they're putting in the extra 200,000 into those two categories
Yeah.
at 301.
Yep.
Now, this is exactly same numbers, 301, 029, for two different purposes. And are those two really the same
I
thing?
believe they're required to put a certain percentage into
Yeah.
like
And-
affordable housing and whatnot.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that
so
amount
this-
is
this is-
101,029 was
So this
the
come as
minimum.
the percentage, so
Yeah.
it's like a, okay.
And and they work closely also. The CPA is governed in some extent by the state, but there are 4 categories. There's open space, recreation, purpose, historic preservation, community housing, and historic community.
It is an undesignated reserve.
And then they have an undesignated category,
Yeah.
so.
I have another question. If theoretically speaking,
Mhm.
town meeting voted to not approve these transfers and everything, what does that mean? What would happen?
So the $101,029 is by statute. I've never, I guess I don't know what would happen if they chose not to approve that. My understanding is the other amounts that they put into the categories would probably stay in undesignated for now until they got approved to go into a particular category.
I guess it's a good deal for the town because the state matches, so.
Yeah, I
It's not
think,
really, we're still taxed. This is not free money.
No, it's not, exactly,
And
exactly.
and the money from the state is also from us. The state doesn't just have money. It's taxes that they collect,
Yeah.
that they then return back to us
Exactly, it is.
and everyone
Yeah.
else.
I
This
think
is
that-
not, a financial boon for the town. We're getting taxed.
The thing is, yeah, the thing is that I think that the state decided to do this way to encourage each town to sort of like preserve some, open space and nature type of thing. And then, so I think if we don't do it, we either have to flaunt the state law or if, I
think,
don't know.
I think technically, to answer your question, technically, if town meeting didn't act on this or pass this, the funding would just sit there until town meeting took action. So it's like we couldn't use it, it would just sit there. This is the simplest answer, yeah.
Because I know,
Yeah.
some of the certain percentages are required to go into certain
Right.
buckets. It's not,
Yeah.
it's already been collected. It's not like
Right.
we can say
Right.
like, no, we don't want to, and then all of a sudden, you know,
Right.
it gets returned to the
Yeah.
residents of the town.
Yeah, that's
Right.
what I was trying to say,
Yeah.
is that if we could actually say, if, say, we
Yeah.
decided going to be, wild people, we're not going to preserve it.
Tax
And
has
just,
already been levied.
Yeah, so, I mean, if we decide from now on, like, the town meeting has a total revolt, and we're not going to put any more fund to that place, to that community special fund ever in the future, and then we just want our taxes lower, then I don't know.
Might be a good future topic, maybe a joint meeting of the FinCom with the CPC to talk all about CPC, because there's a lot to it, and there's a lot of different opinions on it.
I
Right,
do kind of
yeah.
like wondering, like, when they purchase that parcel, if they pay too much for it, because but the thing is, I don't know.
Not gonna rehash it now, Jim.
No, I know, it's
Yeah.
way too
Yeah.
late.
Yeah.
But
No,
it's
these
sort
are,
of-
yeah, and I,
it was a
Or
little-
says they say.
Oh, I would have voted it was a bargain.
I don't know. It was just I actually agree with Robert completely. Is that I would be interested in learning more about how the CPC funds are dispersed and.
yes, I do, actually, I'm making a little note here for next year, joint meeting, CPC and FinCom.
I think I agree with Eric's sentiment of looking at a 3% tax and some number of millions in free cash. Next year we need
And
look.
The thing is that if you lower the tax rate 1 year and then you have increase the next year, you're gonna get more.
you don't have
people
to increase it. We can bring it, if a few years ago, it was brought up at town meeting to increase it from 1% to 3%, and everyone at town meeting was like, woo, more taxes. And it went to 3%. And so.
And then it never came down, right? Yeah, yeah. It's
I try, sometimes I can't help it.
the thing is that I think that
You are the voice of the people.
overall, I guess Ayer's tax rate is
Yeah.
not very high compared to neighboring towns. So I think
Sure,
yeah,
but again,
I
it's
agree
not,
with you.
it's not the general tax. It's tax that goes to the CPC
Yeah,
fund
yeah,
and is stuck in there and cannot be used for
For anything
anything
else,
else.
absolutely.
And a good portion of it can't be used for what we want it to. It has to go to, say, affordable housing. We can't just say, there's this big pool of money and we want to purchase a massive parcel and do whatever we want with it. We can't. It's designated for something specific. It's not that.
No, this is a good thing. For the purposes of today's meeting, we do need to continue on.
I also don't know if the
Yeah, 'cause
state
we-
matching fund has a limit. Sorry.
No, these are things that we can discuss in the future. So then I move that we approve Articles 23, 24, and 25. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And last but not least, Article
Are
26.
you objecting or are you abstaining?
Oh,
No, I said aye.
okay. Article 26, bylaw, collection of local taxes, payment agreements.
And Mr. Chair, I'll just have the treasurer, I'll have Barbara just give a snapshot of what this does as she put this forward, which I think makes sense for both the town and for residents. So, Barbara.
So there were some recent changes in tax title law that you may or may not have heard of. But one of the things that was changed was the different options we can, agreements we can go into with somebody in tax title to help them get their arrears taxes paid up. So that's what this is addressing, is we have to adopt the bylaw that allows me to enter into payment agreements with a resident who is in tax title, to help them get paid current. And the terms are in the bylaw, if you have any questions.
So this will make it clearer if people are arrear in their taxes, how they can get it taken care of.
Yes, so this allows me to enter into a payment agreement with them, which is the last option before foreclosure. So I prefer to work with our residents and help them get caught up, and that's what this is doing.
Very good. Okay, I move that, oh, yes.
There was no other option before this? It was either
So
foreclosure or not?
There
or-
was an option out there before this. It was very similar to the terms we're adopting, the 5 years and the 50% of interest. But Ayer had not adopted the bylaw yet.
Oh,
So this is adopting
It's
that
a
bylaw.
compliance issue, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Clarification. Okay,
Do we what?
Do we have many cases of that need this, like do?
So
have delinquent-
comparatively, Ayer, I generally do a tax title process once a year, and there's not that many that happen in Ayer. And we do work with our residents as much as possible to get them back on there.
Do you have a rough idea, like a 5% or?
I can tell you there's about 280,000 in tax title total, which is very minimal for a tax title.
Doesn't sound like a lot.
It's,
So that's the total amount of tax owed to the town.
yes. So what happens is when we bill you for real estate taxes, we have 3.5 years to collect that money from June 30th of that year. Or we have to do this process called a tax taking to perfect the lien. And what that does is it guarantees that at some point we'll get that money. And it's a technical process, and we perfect the lien, it's registered at Mass Land Records, and then I start working with the residents to collect that.
That's probably about like 1,500 households, I think.
okay. I would like to move that we approve Article 26.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we've reviewed all the articles. Are there any public comments?
Just Jeff.
Jeff? No? Okay, hearing none. Our next meeting will be next Tuesday, a joint meeting with the Select Board, where we will present our recommendations from tonight's meeting. Our regular scheduled meeting on April 3rd, we will not be having. And then our next meeting after that will be Thursday, April 17th. With nothing else, I move that we adjourn.
Just to clarify, you
Yes.
said no meeting on the 3rd?
No meeting on the 3rd because
Um,
we're doing the extra. We're going to do a joint meeting with Select Board on April 1st, this coming Tuesday.
I may be absent or late or join via Zoom.
I believe we will have a quorum though. So, okay. Anything else? I move that we adjourn.
How are you gonna take that from me?
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I misspoke.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second. Sure. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned as of 6:54 PM.